I'm co-host James Ash.
And I'm co-host Phil Scaife.
Welcome to the Business Lockdown.
So welcome to today's show. And I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Gav Cook.
Hello.
We go back a few years. He taught me Taekwondo, but he's so much more than that. As an instructor, very good. But then he's gone on to create his own podcast, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Gone on to invest in property as well, which I hope we get to touch on, and loads more besides. So, welcome to the show, Gav.
Hello, Phil and James. How you guys doing today?
Welcome, Gav.
I just have to add though, Phil. It wasn't just Taekwondo that I taught you, didn't I? Didn't I get you to British champion status?
Well, I didn't like to mention it. You maybe noticed the trophy. It's never more than 2 meters away from me. I keep it closer than people now. The British Championship. Yeah, and eternally grateful for that, Gav.
Yeah, and we won't mention the broken nose either.
Yeah, again, I can equally blame you for that as well. Let's blame you for the good and blame you for the bad. Yeah.
No, well, listen, thanks for that. Sorry, James, over to you.
Yeah, if you can, we're really eager to bring our audience up to speed, give us some background on yourself. Phil's touched on a variety of businesses and sectors that you're involved in. So yeah, if you can bring us up to speed and give us some insight.
Okay. So I suppose in a nutshell. So I'm owner of a martial arts school called Taekwondo Schools. We started about 10 years ago. So originally I had a regular full-time job, and I just wanted to open a school just for my son, who was 4 at the time, my eldest son Harry, and I was really keen to get him into some sort of form of martial arts, because I did martial arts when I was a kid, and the benefits of martial arts when you're a child is just through the roof, really, in terms of like your discipline and your confidence and your self-esteem and all that sort of stuff. So I was really keen to get him into martial arts. There was no clubs in the area, so I thought, well, look, maybe now's the time for me just to hire a village hall, get a couple of kids in there and just give it a go. And it started off like that, and I had sort of 5, 6, 10 students, and then by the end of the year it was up to 30 or 40, and within in a year or 2 years it was up to nearly 100 students. And I was like, actually, you know what, I could do this full time. I could do this for a living. And I suppose in America they call it a side hustle, don't they? You know what I mean? They always say, well, get your side hustle going on. And I think it's right. I think it's important, if you've got a dream like that, is to not just to make it. I think you always need. I would say my stance on it is always good to have a plan B. I suppose there were some people that were like, no, I'm all in, I'm all or nothing. But for me, it was like, look, I've got a family, I've got children, I've got a mortgage. I can't just go all in and start doing this on my own originally. So I sort of saved up some money, made sure I had a year's worth of mortgage behind me. And then it was time just to jump straight into the business full time. And that was sort of 4 years ago. And obviously that journey has not just been a journey of building my business up to what it is now, which is over 300 students, and giving me a good sort of lifestyle, and giving me opportunities to invest in other business ventures. It's given me more time, obviously, with my family. But that journey has not just been a journey of martial arts. It's also been a journey of self-education. It's, listening. Phil, I mean, you guys, you know how much audio. I mean, we're constantly talking to each other, aren't we, about the last podcast we've listened to, or the last audio book that we've listened to, and and I think these days it's so easy to self-educate yourself. I wish. Now, at a ripe old age of 45, I wish we had these resources around when we were younger, because, the things that we're doing in our 40s, we could have been doing them in our 20s or 30s. If we'd had that education when we were young. It was always just books, and I was never one to be sat in the library. When I had the opportunity to go and punch a punch bag or or hang around with my friends in the park. That's what we used to do. And these days, the youngsters have got so many resources available. They've got their audios, they've got their podcasts, etc., etc. And it was a chance meeting, really, like you say, because Phil was one of my students, and we always used to talk about, what audio book you listen to, or what business you invest in at the moment, Phil. Because obviously Phil's got a number of different businesses and business partners and stuff. And I was originally into shares, wasn't I, Phil? And I remember you always used to be talking about Bitcoin, and I used to be talking about shares. Then you used to be talking about property, and then you got into Airbnb, which sort of struck a chord with me. So then obviously we looked at doing that sort of stuff, and yeah, it's been quite a journey over the last sort of couple of years, I would say. Really, it's amazing how when you start going down that self-education route, how your mind shifts, and it's not an instant thing. It's a gradual process where you really start considering the people that you hang around with. You really start to think about the influences on your life and the people that you want in your life, and what sort of influences they're giving you. You don't want people in your life that are giving you those negative connotations all the time, giving you those negative vibes. You want people who, like you say, in the position we're in at the moment with the coronavirus. I'm speaking to instructors daily, and there's a constant negativeness. Oh, what we're going to do? We're self-employed. Sign this petition. We need to get Boris to sort of self-employed people out. And I'm like, well, let's just, we've put ourselves in this position by being self-employed. Let's take some ownership for it, and let's look for a different avenue. Let's look at a way of growing, rather than sitting tight and putting the anchors on. Let's start looking for an opportunity in this. So when everything goes back to normal, we're the ones stood at the top of the mountain looking down, thinking, well, you look at, was it Warren Buffett? He talks about be brave when everyone else is being fearful, right? And be fearful when everyone else is being brave. And everyone's been brave for the last sort of 5 or 6 years because the economy has been doing well. And all of a sudden, the shit's hit the fan.
I like the way you asked. Okay, you didn't get an answer. You still went for it.
So the shit's hit the fan, and there's everyone's it's this and this, it's their fault. No, it's your fault. You should have saw this coming, really. So I think now's the time why everyone is bolting the doors to start looking for those openings, and that's the entrepreneur's attitude, isn't it? You guys know that. Look at the podcast that you're doing, and look at the businesses and the stuff that you guys are doing. It's
like now. There's a great quote, isn't there? You don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that, isn't it? That's the time we're living in right now. The tide couldn't have gone out any quicker and couldn't have gone out any further. And there's a few people who have been found out.
It is, and it's funny. I was just talking to my wife yesterday. Went for a stroll yesterday while we could before the lockdown happened, and there's actually a lot of the people that you almost put on a pedestal, or you almost aspired to be like, because they've got these big businesses with hundreds of staff, and they're sitting there thinking, and you're like, look at them. I want to be like that one day. We're small at the moment. I want to be like that. And actually, they're the ones that are feeling it the most.
Yeah.
Because they've got to lay off hundreds of staff, and they've gone, and it's happened so fast. Nobody could have foreseen it.
Yeah.
Where we're still quite small and nimble, so we're able to to pivot when we need to pivot, and we're able to diversify quickly, and we can easily change our direction of what we're doing and move it into a different area. Hence the virtual training that obviously I'm going down the route of now.
Tell us about your journey into virtual training. How did that start? Where did it come from? How and where you're at with it?
So it's something that's been on our mind. So myself, I have obviously, as you guys know, I've got another business partner called Jackson White. We were friends. We grew up together in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, and we've been friends ever since. And obviously, he's the gentleman that I do the podcast with. I'll get onto the podcast a little bit, why we started that and stuff like that. But in terms of the journey into the virtual stuff, it's something that's always been on our mind to start digitizing everything that we're doing. See, we're martial arts instructors with a wealth of knowledge, sort of 38, 40 years worth of experience behind us in doing our martial art. And if we got hit by a bus tomorrow, that's lost. It's gone. It's gone forever. So why not, in the age that we're in now, start trying to put all of those knowledge, all of that experience into video format? I know video format will be outdated again, probably another 10 years, it'll be holograms. But at the same time, that knowledge will live on, and that experience will live on to our kids and etc. So really, it's always been one of those things we've been thinking about doing, but like everything else, we're so busy running businesses, day-to-day stuff, it always gets put to the back burner. When all of a sudden, within a week, or probably even less than that, businesses have just stopped. All of a sudden, I can't teach my class anymore. I've got 300 students that are all waiting for me. They want me to teach them every day or every week. They all pay me a monthly subscription. Okay, so that's my main source of income that I thought, was pretty solid. I thought everyone's good. I'm a good instructor. I've got a big club. Everyone enjoys it. People are always going to want their kids to learn some sort of martial art. This is never going to be one of those things that ever dies. And within the space of probably 2 weeks, whole parts of the industry have just gone because people don't know how to move online. So, and it was a conversation again, Phil, is that conversation I had with you. I phoned Phil a week or so ago. I was like, Phil, it's a nightmare. I'm potentially going to lose everything overnight. Give me some advice. And Phil's advice was, I can always look to Phil for advice, and he's brilliant at creating opportunities, and having that, you sit down, you have a conversation, you walk away thinking, Jesus. I don't know if you've found that, James, when you have these conversations with Phil.
Never. So it's normally, it's always it. I mean, this is an opportunity for Phil to say the same about me, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah. I'm like a ventriloquist dummy for James. It's all I channel his. I channel it.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. In all seriousness, absolutely. But I think we find that both ways at different times, depending on how energized we are.
It's the network you've got around you, isn't it? Right? You're constantly picking things up and piecing it together, and you're just constantly doing that, isn't it? So nothing's kind of new. It's just come from somewhere else and been repackaged. It's that kind of thing. But sorry, back to your story. So we had that conversation.
And you turned around to me and said, well, look, who are people? Think about your podcast. Think about the audiobooks that you listen to. Who are people that you aspire to be, or what influencers do you listen to, and what would put yourself in their shoes and what would they do? Because I was talking about reducing my training fees and thinking, well, actually, there was a lot of posts by instructors saying, sending out messages to all their students saying, look, please stand by me. I'm self-employed. If you don't keep paying your training fees, there might not be a club to come back to, right? And I get that, but this goes back a little bit, James, about what we were talking. You're almost acting like a bit of a victim. You're almost being a bit that victim mentality. It's almost like, I'm here, please support me, which I get that, and students do want to support you. But I went back and thought, you know what? No, I'm going to add value. I'm going to add masses of value. I'm not just going to have a little bit of value. I'm going to add masses of value. So these students that now only see me, that used to see me once a week, some of them, the ninja classes that I do, I have students pay me a monthly subscription. Some of them only see me for 35 minutes a week, like some of their kids, right? But they love it. They're getting good value. They're learning courtesy and discipline and self-control. I'm laughing because Oakley, Phil's son, is one of my ninjas, and he just walked past the camera. But hey, Oakley. So so some of these ninjas only see me for 35, 45 minutes a week. So now I've gone to the parents and I've said to them, right, you're going to see me twice a day now for 5 days a week. For the money, the same money that you used to pay me, you're not going to see me once a week. You're actually going to see me 5 times a week. But not only that, you're going to get the opportunity to send your videos back to me, and I'm going to analyze them based on what you've learned in those videos. and you're going to get daily worksheets emailed to you every day, which tell you what you need to help your kids with. And like you say, you're going to get the chance to be in the prize draw, and you're going to get this, and you can ask me questions. All of a sudden, that value, I actually was tempted to actually pull it up. You know what I mean? I was actually, I'm giving far too much value now for that money. It's bizarre how your mind shifted. So I'd had students sort of texting me saying, well, what's going to happen, Mr. Cook, with the training fees? Are you cancelling it? I'm like, no, we're going online now. We're doing virtual classes every day, twice a day. You'll see me 5 days a week. And that was it. And it was a bizarre, because I went to class and I stood up in front of 20, 30 parents and told them what I'm going to be doing. And it wasn't like what most clubs had done in the area. They'd gone, unfortunately, guys, we've had to shut our doors. I don't know if we're ever going to reopen. Cancel your monthly subscriptions. We're really sorry. It's been a great ride. I'm really upset. I just don't know what to do. I might lose my house. I might do this. And that's the attitude that a lot of clubs were giving. Well, I went in really upbeat. I said, look, guys, it's going to be a change, yes, but it's going to be a change for the better. We're going to be going online. You're going to get to train with me 5 times a week. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to send you this. I'm going to send you that. And actually, they were like, and I was getting parents in the car park saying, that's awesome what you're doing. Nobody's doing that. Yeah. Everyone's just, that's sweet. It's great because it gives our kids a little bit of normality when they're stuck inside. It's not one thing, but they can keep doing, which gives them a bit of the same reality that we had. And it's funny because I've just had a conversation with loads of instructors this afternoon. And I said, we're actually in quite a privileged position, because you can't do online swimming, you can't do online football, you can't do online cricket, you can't do online gymnastics. Well, I suppose to a degree, but actually martial arts, you can actually do this online because it goes down that fitness type route. And not just the fitness, I'm still going on the camera and I'm still talking to the students saying, have you been good for your mum and dad? Have you had good courtesy? Have you helped them wash up? Have you helped them tie? And because they look up to me as a martial arts instructor, kids, you're almost like a father figure. And Phil, you'll probably see that to a degree with Oakley. It's, there's like, when you speak to them as your dad, you're their dad. And all of a sudden, when Mr. Cook speaks to you, they listen. And it's like, oh, Mr. Cook. So I'm on the TV now saying, look, guys, you need to be good for your mummy and daddy. They're going through a tough time. They might not be working as much, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's having that positive spin. And it's funny because we've been doing a lot of podcasts about it and stuff. And the amount of instructors that are really resonating towards us now saying, how can you be so positive in such a shit time? Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? You've got to look at the opportunities, and it goes down to that, look for those openings in a rubbish time. And the same thing with the
Isn't it amazing how the same incident has happened to a group of people all in the same position, and you get some of them see it as a negative situation and some of them see it as a positive situation. And I think there's some of them who see it as a positive is far fewer than the ones that see it as a negative. And obviously you very much fall on the positive side. Yeah. And the other thing is, when you're talking about trying to keep routine and things, as a parent who's now 2 days into homeschooling and trying to do some work, it's actually very stressful. Yeah. And so, and you can see how that's coming out in the children as well. You don't realize, but they're absorbing it. So some normality, and have some familiar faces such as yours sort of coming in. I can see how that is a massive help to parents getting through it.
It is. And the bizarre thing is that, where a lot of my instructors, friends, they're ringing me up saying, I've lost 20 students today. I've lost 30 students today. I had a guy almost in tears ringing me. I don't know what to do. I've built this business. I was living the dream, and I've had over 50 students all cancel on me because they can't make it to class, etc. I know I'm going to touch wood now, but I've had one student suspend their membership, and I've had 3 join. I've had 3 join because they can't make it to class, but they want to join in on my virtual classes.
Wow,
brilliant!
You know what I mean? And how bizarre is that?
That was going to be my question. That with your attitude, I feel that you're actually going to go the other way. So you're not saying I've lost 20 or 30 students. I imagine you're thinking I can now gain an extra 20 or 30 students, because I imagine, there's parents at home now that don't have to do an hour round trip to take the kids to class, to then wait, is a class at an average of an hour? Is that what's...
Yeah. Well, by the time you take in, by the time you get in traffic and all that sort of stuff on top of it, like you say, sorry, my wife just opened the door there. I think she's going to bring me a cup of tea, but she saw I was talking. By the time you take in traffic and getting them rushing from work and getting the tea down them and everything else, it's best part of an hour and a half, isn't it? Sometimes for an hour's classroom, for a half an hour class or 45-minute class. Where now, they can do it in the comfort of their own home. And I have to be honest, I think there's going to be a massive shift in what the new normal is. I think what was normal 2 weeks ago is not going to be normal 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line. I think businesses are going to look at this and they're going to go, actually, you know what? We don't need these big offices. We cope perfectly fine with you guys working at home. Actually, we don't need those staff doing that. We can do it remotely. We could build software that can do that. I mean, that's already happens anyway. But I think maybe it might get to the point where when people buy houses, they buy houses for a third room, not because they want to make it into an office, which is normally a junk room, right, in most people's houses. Okay, maybe it's going to be the fitness room where they have a big screen on and every class is done remotely. You got people like Joe Wicks on there, and and I'm doing these sessions with the ninjas, and you've got this. You could imagine how it could go, and I want to be at the forefront of that. I want to be the leader in that, because I feel this is the opportunity for that. And who knows, it might not go that way, but if it doesn't, you've lost nothing. And it's been great for me, because now I can do my virtual classes. I can stream them to my students, then I can package them up on Facebook, and I can send them into groups of kids, like mums groups, that they're like pulling their hair out, not knowing what to do with their kids. And, oh, this looks cool. Let's do this. Where's this? And they're having it for free, and they're teaching their kids for free. So I feel like I'm actually giving back as well, which is important. And I genuinely believe that, like, you look at the subscription models and things that you buy, it has to be a value offering, doesn't it? It has to be a fair offering, value against what you'll get. So you're going to pay me this, I'm going to give you this. And it doesn't always have to be what you think it could be. You can stack that value up, can't you? In different ways. Yeah. Especially using virtual stuff and software stuff now.
So based on that, what I'm quite keen on is just some quick tips and tricks to our audience. Is that what did you have to do to switch that around from being an instructor in a physical capacity in a premises to live students, where give us and the audience some insight into what you needed to do in order to go live in a virtual sense. And I imagine part of that was going outside of your comfort zone. So, because it would be very easy for people to watch and listen to this, thinking that, even looking at that you've got a boom arm there with a microphone, people thinking, well, that's just what he does. He's tech savvy. But I imagine you've been out your comfort zone. And I also imagine that this applies to yoga instructors, PTs that can do the same at home. So if you can give a bit of insight into how others can do what you've had to do.
Yeah, well, I would say probably the first thing that you've got to do is have a shift of mindset. Okay, I think that's that we'll get back to equipment and everything else in a minute, but I think it's having that shift of mindset. And don't get me wrong, when this coronavirus hit, I was like, shit. I had a real pity party for a couple of days, thinking, this could be the end of what I've just grown over 10 years. How the hell, are we going to get around this? And I think the most important thing, and one day I'm going to do a podcast on it, or maybe we should all write a book on it, is about the 5 or 6 people in your life that you constantly speak to on a day-to-day basis. They're the people that change that mindset. Because if you're talking to people, if I'd spoke to a couple of friends and they said, sounds like you're knackered, Gav, I'll get out there and go and work and go and get I know there's jobs in the supermarket. Why don't you go and do that for a little bit and then build it up? And there would have been plenty of conversations like that going on. and people would have been like, actually, maybe I should do that. But when you've got people that look at things differently, and you have those conversations, and they're like, well, no, you've got to do it differently. So I think the first thing is having a mindset shift. But I think that also comes with self-education. And, like what we talked about earlier on is, listening to these audiobooks and listening to influential people and trying to take their advice and do what they do. But in terms of technical expertise, I suppose, it's like you said, James, about putting yourself out of your comfort zone. You guys will see this picture that's on my wall, actually, if I can find it. Behind it, I think. There you go. You read it.
Okay, so that reads, a comfort zone is a beautiful place. Just lift it up, Gav. But nothing grows there. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. And that is so true. And, when we started the podcast, like you say, we didn't have any equipment. We downloaded a YouTube video on how to set your own podcast up. It gave you the equipment that you need to buy. So it went onto Amazon. I think we spent about 500 quid between us, bought a couple of microphones, and then we sat down in a room around the table, and we went, shit, okay, what do we do? What do we do? And we said, well, let's just talk about ourselves. And it just sounded so weird, and it was so clunky. And when you listen to the first episode that we did, it just sounded so, I mean, people probably don't even notice it, but for us, it was so awkward. We felt so awkward, and it didn't feel, and talk about, I could, being a martial artist and being a fighter, I'm used to getting in the ring, and I'm used to getting on the mat, and I'm used to getting, the top fighter in the UK trying to smash my brains out, and me having that fear and that feeling sick physically. But I had that feeling again doing the podcast. I felt physically sick. I was like, this is so out of my comfort zone. I can't do this. We didn't know what to say. We was umming and ahhing, and, and I was like, right, we need to cut that out. We need to cut that out. I can't be saying that. I need to cut that out. And it was so mentally exhausting. And it's funny. And now 9 months down the line, we're interviewing some of the most influential martial artists in the world, to the point where we went to Florida in January, and that was all because of the podcast, where we sat in Tampa Bay, overlooking Tampa Bay, interviewing one of the most influential martial artists in the world, and was having a cup of tea and just chatting like friends. And it's weird, that transition that you've gone from, that was only 9 months, right? And now it doesn't feel like we're out of our comfort zone. We set the mic up anywhere, and we just chat to people, and we don't even think about it. Now, It's now going online virtually. Now, again, I had that a little bit, not as much, but I had a little bit of that feeling the other day before I was about to do my first session. I thought, well, what? I've geared all this up. I've told instructors how awesome it's going to be. I've done this. Now I've got to deliver my first couple of classes. And everyone loved it, and people were messaging me saying that was so awesome. And there was like 50 people on the class at one point, and it was great. I had this big screen. I could see all my students, and I was kicking and punching and shouting, and in their equipment with their belts on, stuff like that, on the big screen. And I think I've just built up this resilience and built up this resistance over time by constantly putting myself out of my comfort zone. Every time I'm in my comfort zone now, I know that I'm not going to grow. So I've got to do something else that makes me feel physically sick. When I used to fight, I used to feel physically sick before I stepped on the mat. Before I started the podcast, I used to feel physically sick. Before I used to do a Facebook Live, I used to feel physically sick. Now I'm like, right, what's the next level? I know the next level. We need to go and buy a £5 million business. That's what we need to go and do. We need to put everything on the line, and then we need to feel physically sick again. And then you're doing the right thing. 9 times out of the 10, when you feel, you think about when you guys met your wives, going back when you were younger, or you met your first girlfriend or whatever. Remember that? Remember how you used to feel before that time? You had to ask her out on a date. That horrible, oh my gosh, what happens if they say no? It's that, isn't it? But then you do it, and you get stronger, and then it becomes easy. It's like to the point where you start pinching their bums in nightclubs. Not that I ever did that in my teenage years.
Speak for yourself, Gav. Speak for yourself. And what I'm keen on, Gav, is just take back, because you mentioned about that you built a Europe of security before you made the switch within business.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to, and it's been a wonderful position of mentoring people, delivering seminars, and you often find, generally speaking, you get the people that will do that, and they will build until they're at a point where they can safely tip, or they'll just go for it, and voluntarily or forced by going for it. And I think we certainly find ourselves now around the world. There'll be the millions of people now where they're forced into a position. If you had that time again, knowing what you know now, would you still choose to take that year, or would you just go for it now? I mean, how have you changed? If that moment came again, would you act quicker, or would you still take the same path?
It's a really good question, because I think there's still an element of me that likes that comfort blanket. I think there's probably a 20-30% part of me that still likes to think, you know what, if it all goes wrong, what's my biggest exposure, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't get to this, obviously, I talked about my martial arts career, but sort of going back 20-25 years ago, we had a surf shop, and we had a surf shop in the city centre of York. We used to sell, it was when Animal and Quicksilver and Billabong and all those brands were really big, and I'd just come back from a year's travelling from Australia, and I'd come back and all I saw was Animal and Quicksilver and Billabong, and I come back, I met my wife, and about sort of 6 months, a year went down, and then I kept talking about, I want to open a surf shop. And eventually it built up on that. And we said, let's do it. Let's just do it then. And we did. And we were young. We had no business experience. The mistakes that we made was just, you look back and think, what were you thinking? To the point where we were drowning in stock, and cash flow was so tight. And it was all because we were being bullied by the reps. You need this brand. Not bullied in that way, but they were salespeople, and we weren't experienced buyers, right? We were just a couple of young kids, and they were experienced salespeople, and we were like, yeah, this is going to be the hottest brand. You need this, and then you say no, and we kept looking at the money, and I was like, oh no, but you need this. You need this in your store. Don't get this. And the next thing you know, we got these big, and we were just drowning in stock. And we lasted 6 years, and we had 2 or 3 years which were really good. And then the internet really started. This was when we opened. There wasn't the internet, or not the internet as we know it now. Websites didn't exist when we opened. And during the course of that 6 years, Facebook came along during that time. I remember having my first Facebook invite during that time when I was in the shop. So I don't know what year it was. And then websites. Then we built our website, and then what happened is people started coming into our store, and they were like trying on a snowball jacket, which 2 years ago they would have bought a £500 snowball jacket, where they started coming in and get a bit more savvy and go, oh, I like this. Could you tell me what brand it is? Could you tell me what? And so we knew that they were going to go home, and they were going to look for someone selling a jacket like that with no overhead. So we were paying light, heat, power, staff, etc., etc. And then they were, someone else was basically benefiting. We were taking all the risk, and someone else was benefiting. So year 6, we struggled to get out of the lease. We managed to walk away but that period when we were losing money every week, it got to the point where we were opening the doors on a Saturday, and then we had to pay the bills on the Monday, and whatever we earned on that Saturday got paid into bills on the Monday. And I think a lot of it now comes back to, I'm not going to put myself in that position again. I would do it, and I will take a bit of a risk, but I'm not an all-in risk taker. I don't think. No, I think I still need, having 2 kids and a wife and a house and a mortgage, I still need to know that what my exposure is at any one time. And that was the first thing that we said when the coronavirus. I sat down with Rach, and I said, right, what's our exposure, how much we have in the bank, how much we got in the business accounts. Let's see how long could we last without a penny. And that was the first thing. And when we actually looked at it, I thought, actually, you know what? We could probably last quite a while if we really needed to. Then it was like literally from week to week situation. We just got to make the best of it. We've got to diversify. We've got to use that money to put into something else and try to grow while everyone else is.
Yeah.
A bit of a long-winded answer, I suppose, James.
No, great answer, and certainly some insight there, Gav. Certainly, insight that I wasn't aware of. Yeah, for sure.
So I know, Gav, I know that you've ventured into Airbnb over the past 12 months.
Yeah.
Along with the stock market, and I know your stocks and shares have obviously been very up and down. Airbnb, how have you found that like over the past like few weeks? Where have you got to with that industry?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because we've got we do the rent to rent model, as you know. So we're not purchasing properties; we're actually renting them from landlords properly. It's not subletting. We're doing it properly. We're doing it on like a commercial lease for 3 to 5 years. But they all have get out clauses in them. In the event of such a situation as we're in now, again, it comes down to what's my exposure. Okay, and I'm not signing something for a 5-year lease without some sort of get out, because I always want to have that, that access to, or that release if I need it. Yeah. So, so we started that. So we did a rent to rent model. We kitted them all out, and they're in city centre of York. So they're in a buoyant place, and they've actually performed really, really well. And now we've just got to the point now where we've just taken another one on literally a week before the coronavirus hit. And straight away, cancellation, bing, cancellation, bing, cancellation, bing. That was just all. And my wife was like, everyone's cancelling. I said, well, don't worry, they're gonna be cancelling. Would you cancel? I was like, well, yeah, well, don't worry about it. Let's just sit tight. There's a little bit of money in the bank to tide us over. But in the worst case, we hand the properties back to the landlord and we say, look, again, it was an interesting conversation because we was talking about where does the book stop, right? So the cleaner doesn't get paid, okay? But then she'll say, well, I want to be paid. And you say, well, I can't pay the cleaner because we haven't had any bookings. And then you say to the landlord, we can't pay your rent because we haven't had any bookings. And then the landlord goes to the mortgage company and says, I can't pay the mortgage because I can't pay the rent because my tenant can't get any bookings. And it's just, and we're like, well, we shouldn't necessarily be taking the full brunt of that because there's quite a few of us in the chain. So should we be paying full rent to our landlord and them just taking it? Or should we be saying, well, actually, we're going for a tough time at the moment. We can only afford to give you half. You go to your mortgage company and you have that conversation as well. And let's be fair about that, about it. We want to keep the houses. And again, the time will come again when it's buoyant in York, and then we can then maybe give you some sort of profit share. We can give you a bit extra when that happens. But in the meantime, let's just look at what we can do to survive. But over the last couple of days, since we've gone into lockdown, things have changed because people are stuck in the UK and they can't get home, and they don't want to be in hotels because you can pass the coronavirus around easy in the commercial areas. So what they're doing, they're booking houses for months at a time. So all of a sudden, we're getting inquiry after inquiry, a week here, a week there, a month. Everyone wants to say, well, can I have the house for longer if I need it? And so what we've done is reduce our prices right down. So where we would have maybe charged £80, £90 a night in city centre York at Easter, we're charging £30 a night. And we're basically getting our money back. We're not making any profit, and we're not trying to pad the bank account in a time like now, because I think it's a case of karma and it's a case of giving back. I think sometimes there's people that are in real shit situations out there, and so it's a case of let's see if we can get enough in to keep our cleaner on the books. let's see if we can get enough in to keep our laundry guy on the book, so they're there when we need them, when we can go back again. And let's see if we can get enough money in to pay the rent. And if we can do that, and then forget about the houses for a couple of months and concentrate on our main businesses, then I think we'll be in a good position when it all rolls over. And I think going back to mindset, I think a lot of people would have said, let's just get rid of them. Let's just sell. Let's just give them back to the landlord. And I think it's a judgment call, isn't it? It's difficult sometimes. And sometimes, what I say, the harder I work, the luckier I become. And it's not necessarily always luck, is it? It's those little things done along the time.
Yeah. I'm wearing my ironic T-shirt today.
Oh, look at that. Like it.
Yeah. So over the past few days or week, is there anything that you've purchased that you wouldn't normally have bought to get you through, either in a business or in your home life, through this like lockdown situation?
Excluding multi-packs of toilet tissue.
Yeah, excluding the year's supply of toilet roll.
Well, I was going to get some condoms, but I thought, well, actually, the kids are off school. Okay, so I have bought. Would you like to see if I?
Whoa! What you get?
Stop the condom. The first, because it's going back to the live streaming. My thought process was this. So we're with Sky Broadband, and I thought, right, so I'm going to be doing live streaming for my very livelihood over the next 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year. Who knows how long this is going to last, right? And is it going to be the norm, like I mentioned before? So my thought process was, well, if everybody's going to be at home, then everybody's going to be on Wi-Fi. They're not going to be using their 4G. They're going to be smashing that Wi-Fi, and it's going to affect the bandwidths, and as we've seen, a lot of sites are crashing. I mean, Zoom crashed, didn't it, recently, as we're on now, as did, I forget, Tesco's last night crashed because Boris said something like, if you're going to get food, I recommend you use the online supermarket.
Oh, yeah, across the board, yeah.
Yeah, so we had a delivery today, and mate said to me, can you see if you can get a few extra things on? I went on there, and I just could not get on, so it was totally crashed. So my thought process was, right, I need to get a stream. So I went out to 3 network, and I bought one of those 4G streaming devices. Basically, it's like a router, but it works off unlimited 4G. Because my thoughts were, no one's going to be anywhere, so the 4G masts are probably not going to be. I'm not that technical, so I don't know if that affects it, but I would have thought the more people that are using it, slow as well, it does. I don't know. Again, I don't know. It might just be me, but that was my idea. But so far, it has proven true, because streaming that I've been doing in my house, I've been using the 4G network, and it's been strong. And not to mention that the kids are at home. So of course, they're on their Xboxes, they're on their phones, the wife's on the laptop. So that's all bringing it down. So that was, again, a pretty good decision, I think. And again, it comes back to taking ownership. You can't just sit and say, oh, bloody hell, it's a nightmare. Think about what do I need? What do I need in this situation?
Yeah.
So that answers your question. I can't show you it, Phil, because if I pull it, I'm probably gonna lose connection with you guys.
Our viewers and listeners will have picked up on this. There's been issues throughout at times with the signals. So first of all, apologies to our viewers and listeners, but also thanks for people to sticking around and continuing to experience this episode. It's not ideal, but these are some of the things that we're dealing with, and we could either choose to stop it, but we've carried on and cracked on, and I think that's something that we'd all advise people to just do under these challenging times, really. Gav, before we sign off, there was something that you said, and you spoke about being in your mid-40s and how you wished the technology wasn't around when you were younger, and you wished it had. And what came to mind, sprung to mind, was I watched a Ricky Gervais interview about a week ago, And he didn't make it until he was 40. You know, his big break was when he was 40. And he said that he remembers being elated to his wife with everything that was happening. And he turned to him one day and said, you know, this is just amazing, isn't it? I should have been doing this years ago. And her instant response was, but you wouldn't have been as good as you are now. You wouldn't have been good enough. Yeah. And I think I'd like to know your thoughts just briefly on, because I've done it myself, that I think, God, if I was 15 and all of this technology and be doing YouTube channels and being an influencer and connecting with people and all of that. But I think, you know, what's your take on the amount of people in a similar position at your age, and because of they're in a similar position and an age, aren't doing it, and you've chosen to? Yes, you're not 20. You're not 25. That you might have been more ideal with more energy or time on your hands. But do you consider yourself that maybe positioned yourself better with your business in your marketplace because of your age and because you went through it?
For sure. I think, and we've had conversations, Phil, about this. I think that the late 30s, early 40s at the moment have got the best opportunity ever. I genuinely think we have got the best opportunity ever than generations have had to succeed. And I'll tell you why. So if you're in your 20s, okay, yes, you can maybe read a bit more. Yes, you can use online, you know, listen to podcasts. Yes, you can listen to audiobooks. Do you really want to do that in your 20s? I know I didn't want to do that in my 20s. I was too busy getting drunk and traveling and meeting girls and doing all the stuff that 20-year-olds should do, right? So for us to expect the youngsters to be any different, I think they're just going to look for different ways of having that fun, aren't they? Whether it's, you know, like say alcohol, or whether it's you know, festivals and music, or whatever it's going to be. I don't know, you know, what that generation is going to be doing now, really, because I've not really got any friends that are in their 20s anymore, and my kids are a little bit younger, so I don't really know what the sort of 20-somethings do these days. But I would imagine they're only I mean, let's talk about the coronavirus. I mean, they're saying on the news, aren't they? It's the 20s and the 25. They're like, well, we're not going to get it. Selfish. We're not going to get it. Yeah, but what about passing it on to? Well, we don't care. We're still going to go out and party because we're in our 20s or whatever. And then that's a lot of the attitude, isn't it? So I think the 20 gap, they're not going to be interested in business and interested in providing for themselves. Then you reach the 30s, and then you tend to have children, and you got a youngster and whatever, and you may have a job because that's what society said you have to do. You have to go to work, and you have to get education, son, and you have to get a job, and you have to get married. And the majority of the population go down that route. That's why you've got universities and, you know, isn't it? You know, that's why you don't have entrepreneur centres rather than universities. Maybe that's the next best thing. Of course it is. We need entrepreneur centres, not universities. Right? Digital
yeah, entrepreneur centres.
Exactly. Because the majority of the population think on down those lines and go down that education system, don't they? You know, go to work, get your education, get a job, and then you get married, and then you got your kids, and then that brings you to your sort of mid-30s. And then something then might turn around and actually, you know what, you know, I'm going to start self-educating and doing whatever. But then look at the other side. You've got the older generation, so the people in their 50s and 60s that are not averse to technology. They don't understand technology. They don't understand the internet. They don't understand software. They don't understand, and they run their businesses for a long time using pen and paper and sending out invoices and doing it all themselves, where all of a sudden you've got the 40-something where we're not interested in partying as much as we used to. Yeah, we've got a family and we want to go out for nice meals, but you're not going to catch us in nightclubs, right? And sniffing glue. I don't know, unless that's what happens in your house, Phil. I don't know.
So, is that what you used to do, Gav? Is that
yeah. No, I'm not condoning that, by the way. It was a bit of a joke.
So struggling to get my glue right now.
Yeah, I know. Everywhere's out of stock. So you've got your 20s, and you've got your 30s, then you've got all of a sudden you've got people like us in our early to mid 40s we're starting to think, right, we want to get to a nice place where we can provide for our families, and we don't want to have to do the daily grind all of it till we're in our 60s and 70s and 80s. So you've got people like us who try to look outside the box, and then we're looking at other businesses where you've got your 50, 60-year-olds running their business like they used to. Now, I think there's a massive opportunity for people to buy those businesses or to joint venture with those business people and say, look, Mr. Businessman who's running a laundrette, or hey, Mr. Businessman who's running a cafe, why are you doing it like that? There's much easier, better ways to do it. You can use software, you can outsource, you can use leverage, you can use freelancers all over the world to build you a bit of software in 7 days that could take away her job, and her job. And actually that struggling business doesn't become a struggling business. It becomes a good business that's starting to do well just because of a fresh set of eyes and a different mentality and a different type of business attitude on that business. So taking all that into consideration, I think people in our 40s now, if you've got the right mindset, have got amazing opportunity. I mean, look at you guys. You started this podcast.
I would just like to point out, I'm not in the above 40s brackets. That's just the there. It's just a disclaimer.
James, come on.
Hard life.
It must have been tough over there.
I did have the longest paper round at the shop. That was a fish. That's normally a joke. I did have the longest paper round at the shop, and I was an hour. I always arrived an hour earlier before the next person started theirs. So yeah. I'm still young inside.
But I genuinely think it's a great opportunity for people who are prepared to step up and take it. There's a lot of people who talk about it, and there's a lot of people who want to do it, but at the end of the day, it's the ones that are going to take the action. And a bit like what you were saying about the podcast, our podcast, myself and Jackson's, it's far from being perfect. It's definitely not a polished model, as probably yours isn't. It's a brand new podcast, but who cares? People like things to be real, and it doesn't have to be amazing and excellent. You just got to step up and do it. If you've got an idea, you can take that idea to market in a week, right? If you know the right people and you can get it made, and you've got a good brand digitizer in your team, and you've got a good thought leader in your team, and you've got somebody who's a good driving force in your team. You have all those people together. You can get an idea. You can build a landing page. You can take it to market, okay, or you can buy businesses that where the owner is looking at retiring, and that's certainly dreams that I've got. I think I've got obviously a friend Dean, and we Phil and James. Dean. Who's doing that very same thing, and is looking for business opportunities that he can buy where he can make a difference. And because of the advantages in sort of technology now, I think these opportunities are going to become more and more available. I think it's who's prepared to take that risk and take them, really.
I think based on that as well, I don't want the audience, the viewers and listeners to think, well, this talk about buying businesses, you need loads of money to do all of that. I just want to flip that a bit, and the reason why we're building our audience and building a community with the business lockdown is, you mentioned there that if you need certain people around you with different skills, abilities, mindset, we're building a community here where you can reach out and ask for that help. And people have just I think we welcomed our members yesterday, and I think we had like 60 or 70 people all respond with what they do and offering help to every other member. And that was in our first second day. So and it's continuing to grow, and it feels amazing to be doing this. So on that note, Gav,
just before you finish, I just want to add, James, you're right, and exactly what you've said, right? It's not. I don't believe it's about money. I don't believe it's about money. The two things you need are your health, so you have a lot of energy, okay, and the knowledge. And the thing that I was saying to instructors was, okay, it took me 10 years to build my brand and my business. If I lost it because of the coronavirus, do you think it would take me another 10 years to rebuild it again? It wouldn't, would it? Because I've made those mistakes. I know what to do. And again, it's about knowledge, isn't it? And again, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're saying about if you've got energy and you've got the right mindset, you don't need money. There are people with money who you can buy. You could go to, let's say when all this blows over, if you found a business and you thought that seems like a brilliant business to buy, there's millionaires all over the world sat on money making zero interest in their bank account. Who knows? It might even be minus interest the way it's going, if it can go down any further, right? So if you've got a passion for something, you can say, look, Mr. Joint Venture, Mr. Investor, I've got a great idea. Let's joint venture. You provide the money, I'll provide the time and the energy. Because they may be 60s and 70s, they may be in their 70s, and they're what's the word? Time poor, but money rich. Is that the phrase? I forget now. Where you might be energy rich, but money poor. So you can provide the idea and the energy, they can provide the money, and next thing you know, you've got a 50-50 joint venture. They know the risk, you're prepared to do it, you sell them it. And loads of massive businesses have started that way, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Look at people like Rob Moore, and a lot of a lot of the people listening will know about Rob Moore, and he never had the money. It was his partner Mark Homer that had the money. He was the one that said to him, look, I've got the idea, you've got the money, let's do it. And now they're a multi-million pound, biggest property business in the world, property training business in the world. And it wasn't because he had the money, he just had the brains and the idea, and he convinced someone who had the money to joint venture and to do it. So I would say, I suppose advice to people out there, don't ever be put off thinking you need lots of money to become a business owner. You've just got to have an idea and then look for those angles and that pivoting that we talked about earlier on. That would certainly be my advice, certainly what I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years for sure, and the people I've met along that journey.
Yeah.
Well, I think under the current circumstances, unfortunately, so in one way is that a lot of people are going to find themselves time rich, and it's what they do with that time. When the people that we're interviewing and speaking with in our network are all kind of glass half full mentality, and you've certainly provided that throughout your interview today, Gav. So.
It's been good. It's great. It's nice to be interviewed as opposed to being the interviewer.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed having you on, Gav. So, Gavin Cook, thanks very much. And where can people find you? So, what's your website? What's your social hooks?
Okay, so you catch me on Facebook. Obviously, Gavin Cook on Facebook. The martial arts is called Train Taekwondo Schools. So you'll catch us under traintaekwondo.co.uk. The podcast is called The Motivated Martial Artists. Okay, so you can catch us under that. So the motivatedmartialartist.co.uk and motivatedmartialartist.com. That's our podcast. So again, we're up to episode 45, 46 now. So we're flying ahead, and then we're hoping to get our first book written when we get to episode 50 of all of our awesome interviews that we've had a chance to do, which would be really cool. So so hit me up, guys, if you're out there and you like I say, you want to have a chat and you want to connect, and you've got any anything that resonates with what I've said and what what I've been through and what we've done. Like I say, speak to James, speak to Phil, speak to me. It'd be great to connect. It's all about networking and meeting like-minded individuals. I think and that's your net worth is your network, right?
Absolutely. On that note, thanks very much, Gav.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, James. See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Lockdown.
Please comment, like, share and subscribe to help build our global community.
We look forward to seeing you all soon.